What is up, everyone? Guys, listen up. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the SMGs. I've leveled up all of these and unlocked all the best attachments. I have also fully tested these weapons on maximum difficulty against different factions. First of all, what we're going to do is we're going to break all of these down one by one. We're going to go over the best builds and so on. And I'm also going to tell you my honest thoughts on which one of these SMGs perform better overall, and is it even worth upgrading some of these at all, so you guys don't have to necessarily waste your time. And on top of that, I'm also going to rate them on a 5-star system, and that will include everything, right? Like the performance on max difficulty and the fun factor of the gun as well. Let's start with the Knight SMG. This one, for all the people that don't know, I believe came with a $60 pack of the game, right? So this is a light armor penetrating weapon, one-handed, damage is at 70, and capacity is at 70 currently due to the upgrades. But the fire rate is what's really insane here, right? Like it's almost 1400 fire rate, which turns this gun into a beast. But first, let's break down the best attachments. The sights, this is kind of going to be up to you. None of these really do much for this weapon. The final one decreases the ergonomics, so I'm never going to be running a 2x scope on this one anyway. Now, when it comes to the underbarrels, vertical foregrip is what I personally enjoy. So if you take a look, the other ones also lower the recoil. This one gives you a little bit more ergonomics here, +5 to be more exact. But honestly, this gun already has great ergonomics, and with vertical foregrip, it is much easier to land your shots, and especially with a weapon that has such a crazy fire rate, that really does come in handy. There's one at level 22, but essentially this is the same vertical foregrip, but all it does is drop your ergonomics, so I'm not going to be using this regardless for the flashlight. When it comes to the muzzles, I personally really enjoyed the flash hider. This is kind of like the in-between of compensator and muzzle brake. I've tried all of these. Flash hider feels more consistent to me, easier to control compared to the muzzle brake, and at the same time has less horizontal recoil compared to the compensator. Now, when it comes to the magazines, you do get the extended magazine, right? And this gets your ammo capacity to 70. For me, I feel like the extended magazine for the Knight felt great because it gives you those extra shots, which helps you to burst down some of a little bit more tankier targets. So for example, if I'm fighting the flash mobs, having those 70 shots after I drop a gas nade on them really does make a difference. Overall, I felt like Knight was one of my favorites out of the SMGs. I know it might sound a little bit surprising, but the burst damage on this thing feels incredible. And with these attachments, right, it feels very easy to control, and you're just landing your shots consistently. And with the amount of fire rate that this thing has, it really feels like you're dealing tons of damage, and it really does deal a lot of it, right? So overall, easy to control. Yes, it's light pen, but it is on top of that extremely fun to use because of the said crazy fire rate. If you haven't upgraded this one yet, I would advise to do so. If you really want to have fun and burst down like high HP enemies, this is going to be for you. Obviously, it does not have medium pen or heavy pen or whatever, so it's not the craziest one. You should use a Knight to build around your support weapon, right? Like, for example, if you're using the heavy machine gun, a Knight would be a crazy cool combo. That said, because of the high fire rate, you do burn through the ammo really fast as well. So the supply backpack is something that I would highly advise with this weapon. For the Knight, I'm going to give this 3.5 to 4 stars out of 5. And the reason it's not going to get a 5 is because it's the weapon that came with a different edition. And on top of that, it doesn't have medium armor pen. If it wasn't for those two things, this gun would be 5 out of 5 in my books. Now let's talk about the Pummeler. First, let's talk about the reflex sights, which is essentially what I'm going to be running. Not many great choices when it comes to the SMGs, when it comes to scopes. And honestly, I don't even scope in with SMGs anyway, so I don't really care. When it comes to the underbarrels, honestly, you just got to make a decision if you want the laser sight flashlight or not, because with the no underbarrel, you do get +5 ergonomics, right? So we're going to switch to that just to make the weapon feel a little bit better. However, once again, if you want the laser or the flashlight, go for that. Now, the muzzles is where it kind of gets interesting, but at the same time, I feel like this weapon is missing a lot anyway, and we're going to talk about that here in a minute. Any of these, really, if you slap them on, they do make a little bit of a difference, but compared to, for example, the Knight and looking at the recoil differences with the different muzzles, you don't have the same picture with the Pummeler. Now, the compensator gives you way more horizontal recoil and less of a vertical, but I'm gonna be honest, once again, if I compare the differences I got from these muzzles compared to the differences I got feeling of gunplay changing that I got with the Knight, it wasn't that close. I tried all of these. I would go for the compensator, to be honest, because this weapon does kind of stun the enemies, and having a little bit of a horizontal recoil when you're trying to hit a bunch of enemies at the same time does help to keep them away and to keep them stunned. So this was the best one when it comes to the feel of the weapon. Then we have the extended magazine and the short magazine, and finally the drum magazine, which is essentially the one that I went for in order to have the ability to stun more enemies in a horizontal area if I am running the compensator, which that is exactly what we're doing. However, I will say, even though we made all these adjustments and put on all of these upgrades, but overall, I'm still not a fan of this weapon. Like, if you were to ask me, Pip, do you advise that I run Pummeler on max difficulty when I'm trying to get those clears easy peasy? Answer would be no, no matter what you build this around. And if you would ask me, Pip, should I run the Knight? Do you think it's fun and effective? Can I burst some enemies down? I would tell you, dude, go for it, because the burst damage on that is awesome, and the DPS on that feels like you're actually dealing tons of damage to whatever's in front of you. But with Pummeler, it kind of felt like it has an identity crisis. It's not like a great crowd control tool, but yet it doesn't do much damage. Like, it's just stuck in a weird spot where I feel like in the future they're gonna need to do something with this weapon. Don't get me wrong, the drum magazine is cool. Once again, when you combine it with the compensator, it does give you the ability to kind of CC a little bit more. For the Pummeler, we're gonna give it like 1.5 stars maybe. You know, being nice, you could give this 1 star and you'd be fine as well. But yeah, this weapon just doesn't feel good at all. And in my opinion, there's no reason to upgrade this weapon at the moment. Get this at the end tail of your upgrading session, so to speak, when you're done with this next SMG that we're going to talk about here, which is going to be the Reprimand. Now I have a full-on separate video about the Reprimand where I go more in depth and everything like that, showcase the different recoils. But in this one, we're going to quickly go over everything so you guys get a better idea. It is medium armor penetrating and does a whopping 125 damage per shot. This is easily, in my opinion, the best SMG within the game, followed by the Knight. I really enjoyed the Knight. I was surprised myself, right? But back to the Reprimand here. The Reprimand does tons of damage, and what I like to do here is go for the iron sights for the increased ergonomics. Then when it comes to the underbarrel, the vertical foregrip here is an easy pick compared to all of the other ones. And this is literally all you gotta aim for in the underbarrel section. The muzzle is where this one gets very interesting, because I like to swap the muzzle on the Reprimand depending on which faction I'm fighting. So go for more like vertical recoil when you're fighting the bots, so you don't have to deal with the horizontal one. Try these out against different enemies, guys. You gotta feel it out, because it also comes down to playstyle. Maybe you're used to controlling vertical recoil from other games or horizontal from different ones. So it really depends. For me, as I said, I like to swap around these depending on the factions that I'm fighting. But regardless of which muzzle you pick, once you do slap on vertical foregrip, you will see a huge difference in the Reprimand. So this weapon is on a completely different level at the moment compared to what it was before all of this. So you can't really go wrong. Like, it is the best SMG, in my opinion, no matter which faction you're fighting against. The Reprimand gets 5 out of 5 stars. Like, this is one of the best weapons, as I mentioned, in the game, in my opinion. So if you're thinking about SMGs, put this literally on top of your list. And finally, let's talk about the Deffender SMG, which, as you guys can see here, has 80 damage and the same capacity as the Pummeler. Now, I personally believe that the Deffender felt better than the Pummeler, right? It has higher fire rate, it does 80 per shot, and it doesn't suffer from this identity crisis, so to speak, right? It's not stuck in between, oh, am I a crowd control weapon or am I doing damage? It does do more damage. It does have better fire rate. And yes, it doesn't do CC, but if I really want to crowd control my enemies, I'm going to just drop a gas grenade and then absolutely destroy them, right? So I do feel like this one felt better. When it comes to the sights, same here, same story when it comes to SMGs. None of this give you better ergonomics. So essentially go for whichever you enjoy. For the underbarrels, look at the spread also. And and before we move on here, look at the spread on this one and then take a look at the spread, for example, on the Pummeler as well, right? Like there is a big difference. And that's why I feel like the Defender overall just felt better as well, even though we got the Pummeler upgraded and whatnot. For the underbarrels, as I was saying, I enjoyed vertical foregrip. You can go for angled, but honestly, why would you in this case? Because the vertical foregrip just makes the spread much tighter and the grouping is 10 times better. And then when it comes to the muzzles, the muzzle brake is what I enjoyed the most on the Defender, right? After testing it, especially against the Illuminates, it just felt way more consistent to me personally and much easier to land the shots with the muzzle brake. And since this one does have higher damage than the Pummeler, you're definitely gonna feel it. You will feel that the enemies are going down faster and the fire rate also plays a role. Do I feel like this is a better feeling SMG, a one-handed SMG compared to the Pummeler? The answer once again is yes. I would probably upgrade this as a third option right now after the Reprimand and the Knight. Now, will you suffer if you don't upgrade this at all? Probably not. I'm gonna be honest, on maximum difficulty, I'm still never gonna pick this weapon, but I will for sure pick the Reprimand and the Knight because those two are fun and effective at the same time. When it comes to the magazine, drop magazine was the easy pick, but I still do think that if I'm to pick up a one-handed weapon, currently, I've been loving the Knight once again, so I would combine the Knight with the ballistic shield and just have a good time. But where are these weapons rated? Like, should you even be worried about the SMGs? And the answer is honestly, yes. I feel like the Reprimand is one of the most powerful weapons in the game right now. And I feel like when it comes to light pen weapons, I've upgraded, for example, 2 of the ARs fully already, which is the Liberator Carbine and the Penetrator as well. And I personally enjoyed Knight more than both of those weapons. So yeah, I feel like these two are definitely worth it. And once you upgrade these 2 weapons, then you can start thinking about the SMGs, especially if you're thinking from the perspective of, oh, you know what? These weapons do not feel good at all right now, so they might get a buff. And if you do enjoy SMGs, that is precisely why you should upgrade these, because yes, they could get a buff, and in the future, they can become much stronger and really, really fun at the same time. But if we're talking about right now, I would just focus on Reprimand and the Knight. For the Defender, we're gonna give it 2 stars. I feel like it's a little bit better than the Pummeler, but I don't think it's anything crazy, and that's about it. Now, I want to mention one armor piece that I really love to use with all of these SMGs. As I said, since we've been adding drum mags and extended mags and whatnot, increased reload speed of primary weapons by 30% comes in clutch. And on top of that, it increases ammo capacity of all weapons by 20%. So all of this really makes these SMGs even better, especially the Reprimand as well. So if that's a weapon you enjoy, I would try to combine it with the siege ready armor, and you guys will see right away, it just feels better across the board. Now, when it comes to compared to other weapons, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I still think that the explosive and plasma weapons are on top of the game. I don't think any of the other get even remotely close. However, if we were to rank SMGs, I would say plasma and explosives are in a league of their own. Then we probably put a few shotguns up there, and then it's going to be SMGs right now. I would rank these weapons and the way they feel, the Knight and the Reprimand, better than the ARs. That's just my thoughts on it. After using and testing all of these weapons that are fully upgraded, I do feel like that. Like, these two were really nice, and specifically Reprimand really does slap any faction. So yeah, those are my overall thoughts about the SMG. So if you guys do enjoy the video, and only if you do, slap a like, sub to the channel. I got more content on the way, so stay tuned for that. As always, stay positive, stay disciplined, and I'll see you all on the next one.